All right. Good afternoon, everybody. It is Monday, and it's time for Master Motivation. My guest today is Mr. Mike Guido. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, sir. I'm doing great. I loved that intro. It was great.
Right on. Cool, cool. Hey, I'm really excited to have you on the show today because, you do a little Monday motivation video each and every week. It's the reason that I chose you to come up on this show is because I've been watching it, and every time I listen to you, I get fired up on Mondays. I'm usually in the gym when I hear your video, and I listen to it, and it's great. So you got some great motivation to bring to the table today. I'm super excited.
Right on. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. It's funny. I went on Facebook today and found, you go through your memories, and I saw one from like 2016. I was like, oh wow, it's we've been doing this a while.
Yeah, nice. Very cool. Hey, and you know what? We actually have a mutual friend, or you have a student at your school. Ed Green was my
Yeah.
chiropractor. And so he says he's moving up there. And hey, do you know this guy, Mike Guido? You ever hear of I'm like, are you kidding? I like it's maybe a little bit random, but yes, I do. Great
Yeah.
guy. Totally. I mean, you're going to love it. So hope his son is doing well in the program.
Yes, Jacob's doing great. He's a great kid, man. I love him. He's got tons of energy and tons of excitement. Yeah, I saw him the other day. He was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna watch your video on Monday." I was like, "Okay, cool, right on."
Yeah. Cool,
Yeah, he's
cool.
awesome.
Hey, well, for those of you that are watching now or will watch later, do us a favor and share this video around and let people get to know a little bit more about Mike and a little bit more about his story. For those of you that have been tuning in for the last several months, the whole purpose and the whole reason for these videos is that in 2020 we were kind of faced with a big challenge, right? We had the coronavirus hit all the martial arts schools and just on Facebook in general. And I'd be scrolling like everybody else, scrolling down Facebook and going, God, there's so much negativity. What could we do to bring the opposite, bring some more light, bring some more positivity and good energy? And I said, hey, I know a lot of people that are super motivating and inspiring, not only martial artists, but I've got some professional wrestlers and just some people in my life. And so I've been really enjoying this each and every week. And again, so excited and honored to have you on the show today. So thanks again for joining me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah, I've been watching the videos too, and yeah, they're great. That's great. I'm super excited and pumped to be here today.
Yeah, well, hey, let's start with just kind of let everybody know a little bit more about you and background, maybe kind of early beginnings as a younger martial artist, maybe even go further beyond that. Talk about your family, and we'll just kind of take it from there.
Yeah, sure. So started martial arts in 1986. So uh, I was a short little pudgy kid who, wasn't really into sports or anything. I was about seven, and Karate Kid came out. Of course, I think that was the time. And so from for my seventh birthday, I got the full white gi, got the headband. I was ready to go. So
Was there anybody that didn't wear a headband back in like 85, 86, 87? Like I remember I have pictures when Color Bright, I don't know if you remember Color Bright Studios did karate pictures. Man, I got like blue belt pictures with a headband on. Like everybody wore one.
everybody had one, and it was crazy. I got a video of my first tournament. I've got the headband rocking out there doing the Takioko Shodan, and yeah, we all had the headband back then for sure. um, so my story is really cool. It's really cool. It's really complex. So it's my mom. I come from a broken family, right? So my parents got divorced when I was very young, and so my mom, we moved to this new house, and she made friends with a neighbor lady, and it just so happens that her husband was training martial arts and taught out of his garage.
Hmm.
So I went over there one day. It was like, I don't know, 4:30, 5 o'clock. I remember like the sunset coming in, and he had all these bags in his garage. And I learned, I think we learned a rising block and a front kick that first class. So kind of started there, and then I started going to his school, which is called the Way of Japan. It was in here in Fresno, and so I just kind of trained there as a young kid. And I wasn't that good. I was that kid that came to class. And back then, we didn't even have stripes back then. I mean, the dojo I went to was there was no mats. There was no hanging bags or wave masters. It was a carpeted room, and then one room had like one bag in it that was on linoleum. The dojo smelled like sweaty carpet. That's what, I wear an ankle brace around my ankle, and after the week's over, I smell it and I go, it smells like my childhood. And so yeah, so I trained there for probably till I was about 14. And again, just that kid that just kept coming to class and wasn't really that good, but just kept on keeping on. And then about 14, my original instructor, the guy that started in the garage, he started like a backyard. He moved it like to his backyard and created like a dojo in his backyard. So from there, I kind of transferred over and started like some old school backyard training. Um, I mean, it was no air conditioner, no heaters. It was, and even at one point in time we had tarps around it when it was raining, and so it was very very like Japanese-esque. It was pretty trippy, and we learned, we worked on fundamental old school Shotokan basics, and that was kind of my childhood up to that point. And then we started competing in local karate tournaments and started getting my desire for competition starting to come up, and so yeah, trained that, got my black belt in 2000. So it took me about 13 years to get there, and that was kind of I think par for the course back then. It was very 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 slow. Mentality was, if you didn't like not promoting, then there's the door, you can leave, and
Right.
I just never left. So
Right. Now, were there other activities and other sports that you played as a kid? Did you get involved in anything else, or was martial arts like your thing?
I did fifth grade, no, sixth grade. I played baseball for a season, and I tried wrestling out in fifth grade, and I wasn't very good at either one of them. I wasn't a superstar, so by any means. But I did band. I was involved in music. Music was a big, even up to this day. People that know me real well, I like to sing karaoke. So, so I'm a karaoke guy. I like to have fun and dance, and that's kind of my extracurriculars. But I grew up in a musical family, so band was kind of part of my deal until about eighth grade or so. But most of the time it was just karate because I don't know. I felt team sports were hard for me because I was never a superstar. When I played, I was kind of a bench player.
Hmm.
I just wasn't that athletic until I started getting into my teenage years, and it's real tough to go into athletics as a teenager when you don't really have that much experience. So
Right,
at
right.
that point, I just stayed with karate, and it just kind of stuck with me ever since.
And I'm sure you hear that from your students now. It's the same. People that find that team sports, for whatever reason, it doesn't fit their personality. It doesn't fit their skill set at the time. Maybe their confidence is not quite there, and so martial arts kind of fills that void. I mean, we hear it and see it all the time. And what's awesome about martial arts, and I hope you agree, is that martial arts is not necessarily a team sport, but it has a team support, right? Um,
Yes.
you've got all these people. You get awarded your belts, your stripes, your progress is based on your personal achievement, but yet you have the support of everybody and I'm pointing to my mat, everybody on the mat that's there with you, right? And I mean, what a cool that's like kind of the coolest team ever.
Right, I agree. You're working on building yourself up in a group of individuals that helps bring you up, right? It seems like everybody's supporting everybody on their own personal, journey. And then within our school, that's kind of how it is. Just our cultures just help,
Hmm.
assist, work with each other. And instead of comparing yourself to the person next to you, compare yourself to who you were yesterday.
Absolutely. And you mentioned growing up in a broken home. Did you find that the martial arts and your instructor was someone that really kind of helped fill a void that you had growing up?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that because my original instructor, um, throughout my life, kind of became like that, second father figure to me, and
Hmm.
so and he actually, he filled that void during that time. As time went on in my early 20s, from like I guess 20 to 27 in that range, I ended up having a couple kids, So I had a couple kids, and they're great. They're adults now, doing their thing, living their best life, which is great. And I was just trying to work for a living and provide, but I still trained, which was great. But I trained in the backyard um, with my original instructor, and so he became like that grandfather figure to my kids. He you know and he helped me out a lot when I was younger, of really learning how to work hard and be dedicated to what it is that I do. So a lot of my work ethic, I can definitely give a testament to him on that aspect. So, um, but I at 27, I had like an epiphany. Right, I had a major injury to my leg, like a freak accident, but I dislocated my ankle
Hmm.
and I broke my fibula bone. So my foot was facing this way. I mean, it completely twisted on me. So at that moment in time, when I was 27, is when I really started to dedicate myself to my martial arts, and really like be a martial artist. Like that was my moment. Like, okay, let's stop doing dumb stuff. Let's stop making poor decisions in life. Let's really focus in on what you're doing. And so that was a big change for me.
Hmm. Let's go back a little bit before that. High school. You talked about. Did you play? Were you in the band in high school? Were you in a band? Did you do anything um, substantial in high school? And what about your educational background? Did you go off to college? Do you have a college degree?
Yeah, so I played band. I was in the seventh grade marching band. I played the snare drum,
Hmm.
and when I went to eighth grade, I switched schools, and the band director said, "Well, we'd like you to start playing the bells." And I was like, "I'm good. I think I'm gonna hang up my cap. This not wasn't really my focus and my goal." So at seventh grade was my last year in band. High school. Um, I was just kind of that guy that was, a little bit ahead of everybody else. And like, if my friends were in a biology class, I was in a chemistry class, but I didn't go down that, like some of the kids now, they go down this AP road, they have
Right.
honors English. Hey, that was not me by any means, but I was a little bit ahead of just the average Joe back then. Um, and then I actually got out of high school early. I had, um, I had enough credits to graduate, but I needed a couple more classes my senior year. So I went ahead and just took my high school proficiency exam and left high school at 17 and started working.
Hmm.
So yeah, so that was kind of and then I started attending City College, and then so I attended City College for a semester, and then I got promoted at my job. I worked for a jewelry company, Rogers Jewelers. So worked for them, and then the next thing you know, they're like, "Hey, we've got a full-time position open for you. We want to move you to Bakersfield." And and I said, "Okay, let's do it." And so I was with that company about 8 years, and but I just kept moving up the ladder. And so my education is in definitely the heart the I learned it on the job training. So it wasn't really in the college realm, but it was
Hmm.
definitely they definitely took a young 17-year-old kid and taught him about business and taught him about sales and taught him how to work with people on a daily basis. And so that's where my ability to work with people really kind of
Right.
cultivated.
The old school of hard knocks, right? Just
Yeah,
learn it as you go, and making
right.
mistakes all the way, and moving from there. So you were in sales in jewelry. Um, did you do anything else? And tell us when the martial arts school came into play.
Yeah. So I when I was with the jewelry store, I started out with them. I ran their credit department, and then I moved to their sales department. So I was able to get a good grasp on the entire company. And so that really helped out. And then I did that. And then right about, I'd say back in 2010, my original instructor retired from his job. And he's like, I want to open up a school outside of the garage, outside of the backyard, and, a real deal. I said, okay, let's do it. He goes, all right. He goes, the plan is, we're going to open this school, we're going to grow it up. And then, of course, he goes, I'm getting older. So eventually you're going to take this school over down the road and, of course, grow it bigger. That was kind of the plan. And so we started out with like two students. Um, And now when I say very, very old school, we didn't have a curriculum at first. We didn't have any kind of computer systems. It was very, very very old school. That's the only way I can kind of describe it. It was very,
Mhm.
very primitive, would be the word I would like to use. So we started that from 0 students. Actually, my kids were trained at that time, so I guess 2 students, um, and grew it. And so for the next 5 years from there, from like 2010 to about 2016, um, we worked on growing that location. Um, but because we were so primitive, in 2011, we attended this special gathering of smart individuals. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, the martial arts super show.
Yeah, right. Yes,
So,
sir.
so 2011, that was my first martial arts super show, and talk about a mind blowing experience coming from something very, very old school and primitive
Right,
to what the martial arts industry is and was even at that time.
right.
My mind was blown. It was completely 100% blown. Um, so now, yeah, I'll never forget that. I remember seeing you there, and of course, Mr. Metzger, Mr. Silverman, and that was when I first met Hanshi Dave Kovar. Took
Mhm,
a Dave Kovar instructor college. So I think that's what they called it back then.
mhm.
And my that moment, that super show changed everything for me. And I know you've been to tons of super shows, you've consulted, um, but that super show was probably one of the turning points in my martial arts career as an instructor.
Yeah.
It was
Well,
insane. Yeah.
and I can tell you the same story for myself, even maybe just a few years earlier than that. But I came from a very old school background. We did things a certain way that had worked up until that time, and then you go to something like the Super Show or any other convention like that, and you just look around and you're like, wow, there's another world out there. There's just you truly learn what you don't know, and you just go, wow, like this is amazing, and it's inspiring too, because having had attended the Super Show, you know all these years, you meet people like yourself and other martial arts school owners that it's not always about the biggest and the best. It's just we're always wanting to grow and learn, and it's just such a great event to share ideas. So yeah, I agree 100%. That I was mind blown. I mean, because
Right.
when I first went, I grew up in the martial arts too. I was 10 years old when I started, and there were just some people that I saw, in we didn't really have YouTube back then, but you know, people that were in Black Belt magazine, or people
Right.
that were on the covers of these different martial arts magazines, and I'd just be like, wow, that's Ernie Reyes Sr. over there, and that's Bill Wallace over there, and you're just like, whoa. So yeah, I totally get it. So 2011 kind of changed the whole your whole concept and idea of what your school was going to be. So now take it from there. We've got 9 years, 10 years since then, right? So
Yeah.
let's keep going.
So we go to a super show, and that first one completely changed my, again, you've got this list of 30 things to implement. And the first thing they tell you at the first day of your super show is, you're going to have a list, work on just a couple things at a time, right? So, man, that's kind of what I did. I took that, and so the way it kind of worked is I was ended up becoming the main instructor at the school, and the head instructor. I taught pretty much every class, and then my original instructor, he would kind of work like the front desk type area, right? So he was kind of like, I guess you can say, a program director.
Hmm.
Um, so I just started going down the list and started implementing all the little things. I mean, it's almost like starting from scratch and just building up all the systems. And so we implemented a curriculum. Of course, that's pretty basic, which we didn't have. And so that started, growing and evolving over time. I remember attending. I can't remember what they called it back then, a success seminar or something.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And one of you guys, I'm sure you might have been part of that at one point in time, and but
Yes.
the 5 profit centers.
Yes, sir. Yep.
And
Yep.
so I started working on implementing, all these things gradually as time went on, and started to evolve us was my goal. My goal was to get us out of this old school mentality of thinking into something new school so our school could grow. So during that time, we were again heavy into competitions, but at this time, instead of just sticking to local events that we did in the backyard, we started going to MBL events and NASCA events, and we started competing with a local uh, organization in California called the League. It's ran by Tony Cattengale and Sean Dumlau, and so we started competing a lot. So we're a very heavy competition school, and so time went on, and we were growing, and so my job was kind of like to be like the new idea guy. Like, so I'd come to him and be like, "Hey man, I got this idea. I think it's gonna be great. It's off the wall thinking." And he'd say, I don't think that's gonna be quite working, man. He goes, "You got that from those Maya guys." And and I go, "Listen, let's try it out, see if it works." And we'd do something and it would be killer. Like I think one of them was holding a dojo tournament. I don't know. I don't think that's gonna really work. He goes, "But we'll let you go ahead and do it, and we'll see how it works." That
Mm-hmm.
dojo tournament, it was phenomenal. Everybody loved it. It was great. Um, we worked on just implementing upgrade programs so we could teach more things, and try to evolve in getting into possibly like simple things like accepting credit cards. we
Right.
didn't accept we didn't accept credit cards for at least 3 years. He's like, people aren't going to want to pay with credit cards.
Right,
I
right.
go,
Isn't it kind of amazing too, right? Because this could happen in any other business, not just the martial arts industry, right? But the old saying of it's always been done this way, and the thing is that if it's always been done this way, you're only going to get to a certain level until you change something, adapt, evolve, then you can move to that next level. So again, whether you're a martial artist or you're in any other industry, if you're doing it and have done it the same way forever, you're only going to get to a peak level of success, until you make that adaptation, evolution, and continue to grow. So you're starting to see this in your business where you're not doing it the same way. Now you're doing these things a little bit different. Talk about, because old school, and I just again, for lack of a better term, right, old school martial arts. It was always the challenge of running a solid business and teaching solid martial arts. And there was always this misconception that you couldn't do both at the same time, So, yeah. And Mr. Kowalczyk, he loves to quote this, and he says, respect tradition, embrace innovation, right? It's awesome.
yeah.
So, were you having any kind of challenge? Was that part of the challenge in the growth? Was that you've got this old school method of doing things, and it was almost the fear of selling out, right? Was that something that you ever heard?
I heard that. That was not my fear. Because yeah, I mean, like that's great tradition and innovation. I mean, that's exactly it. If you put yourself in a box, I mean, listen, we could still watch movies on VHS. The
Right.
movie's the same, but it's a whole lot better quality in a DVD, right? So I think that it, I never feared selling out, right? Because listen, if you're teaching quality martial arts, it it's going to show, right? I mean,
Hmm.
if you're teaching how to do a solid form or a solid front kick and solid self-defense techniques, and your students can perform those and they're doing them properly, and you can see that, um, uh, you'll be able to tell. I think the issue was, right, so we got up to a point where we had 150 students, right, which is a pretty darn good student count. But because systems weren't in place properly, we'd go from 150 1 month to like 120 the next month.
Hmm.
Summertime came. I'll never forget. We went from 150 to I think it was like 152 to 69,
Oof.
right? And
Big
so
swing.
big swing. And so if you think about that, when you have all those people leaving and your martial arts is good, well, your systems are poor, right? I mean, that's just, your systems and the way you're running things aren't very good. So this brings us to what I call D-Day. I had to theme it, right? D-Day. So we got to a certain point where, it was time, the location of our school was in like a little bit lower in location, had a lot of crime, um, graffiti. It wasn't really the right spot to have a thriving business. You're not gonna. Most people weren't wanting to. They hear about us like, wow, these guys are really good, but it wasn't that place they could bring their kids day in and day out. It was just wasn't the right atmosphere, and it didn't flow with what one I wanted to teach. So it got to a point where I was like, okay, it's time for us to move out of Fresno and in the area that we're in over into Clovis, which is a little bit nicer of an area. Has and Fresno has its nice areas too, but Clovis is a little bit smaller of a town. Um, more it's kind of has a it's a big it's it's about 125 135,000 people, but it has that small town feel. But it's a much nicer area to have a business.
See,
And
when you said smaller, I was waiting for the number. You said smaller, and then you said 125,000. I don't know if you know this, but where I'm at in Moorpark, California, we're located right in between Simi Valley, which is 125,000 or more, and Thousand Oaks, which is about 120. We have 45,000 people in our small little city. So I was waiting for you to say a small number, by the way, and then you say 120. So anyway, so you move from Fresno, you're in Clovis now, a little higher end, a little more of the market that you're looking for, right? And go on.
well, let me backstep three spots. So my goal is wanting to move us, and my goal is wanting to rebrand the dojo because it just the marketing for the name just didn't sound right. We were it was it had our style Shotokan in the name, and I kind of wanted to just do a complete rebranding and move it to Clovis, and I had this vision of making a life skills based martial arts program, right? Which I think is so important because when I grew up, I think one of my biggest hurdles was I had great martial arts as a in the physical aspect, but I
Mhm.
wasn't really learning those life skills that I think would have helped me out, especially in my early 20s. So 2016 Super Show, MGM Grand, that's D-Day. We were sitting at the food court, and I approached him with this idea. I said, "Hey, I think it's time to, you know, to move things along, to move the location, and I've got these great ideas." And I said, I think it's time for me to kind of take over the system managing of what we're doing. And he looked me dead in the eyes, and he told me, he goes, you'll fail. He goes, you don't know how to run a business. He completely looked at me and went a complete 180 and told me, yep, you're not fit to run this thing. And he goes, actually, the people that are here, the students that we do have, aren't even here for you. They're here for me.
Mm.
And I completely kind of, I don't want to say I was shocked because I know his personality, but that was kind of the D-Day moment where I was like, I mean, well, what are we going to do? And so from that point on, he started going to the students in our school, Facebook messaging, talking to the side, and said, "Hey, Mike's leaving. Mike's opening up his own school." And that wasn't my original plan whatsoever. My plan was we built this together. Let's go do this together. Um,
Mhm.
but he had this desire that he was the guy that had to be in charge and had to run things, and that he knew better. And we were over the last couple of years just weren't really going anywhere. It was this up and down, and it seemed like every decision, every idea I had just kept getting shut down as far as the growth of that. And so got to a point, my wife, she's like, it's time. It's time to, cut the umbilical cord and separate. And so we did. And so that one day I came into the school, and he was like, he came in, he brought his wife in, and he goes, "Hey," so you're out of here, man. You're done. Leave. He goes, "Actually," he goes, I'm gonna make you teach 2 more weeks, And if you don't teach these 2 weeks, I'm not going to pay you. And I was like, all right, man, I'm out of here. And so it was a very, very dramified situation. We had students coming in. I had to grab my things. They're like, where are you going? And I'm like, guys, I got to open up my own school. And they're like, well, you just let us know where you're going. And so anyway, so at that moment in time, me and two of my instructors here, my wife, some other family members, we had about 7 days to get this original dojo open, because we didn't have emails, we didn't have anything. We just had, we didn't have any information on any of those students. We just said, hey, this
Mhm.
is where we're moving to. And 7 days, we took a really, really, I mean, it was a dirty facility that we gutted out, ripped out carpet, painted walls. And of that original 100 students that were there, 60 of those students came over with me as we opened up
Wow.
Guidos.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now was this was your original instructor that you trained with from when you were a kid, or this was?
This is the original instructor, the one that's like grandparents to my children.
So now that's got to be pretty traumatic for you, because that's a really hard lesson to learn, when you feel like someone is family and someone's had your back and you've been there for them, they've been there for you, and now you got to make that decision to leave. Because a lot of schools, we go to our instructor and we say, hey, I think it's time that I move on and open a school. We want their blessing and so on and so forth. And here you are being essentially kind of just booted, and now that relationship is severed. So before we talk about opening the school, I mean, how did that feel for you? I mean, did you feel just totally betrayed? Did you feel like maybe you knew that was coming, or was this just a complete shock for you?
You know, um, I don't want to say it was a complete shock, but it was very, very hurt. It was a very tough time for me, And this is one of those stories. I figure this might be the best time for me to, let my story be told. But, it was a very tough time because that was not my original intent. My original intent was to take our school, rebrand it, do it together, because we've been together for so long. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he started me when I was 7. And even while I was training at his school, while he was training there as well, my mom and his wife were best friends. So I grew up with him for years. And so, but he wanted to be in charge of his school, do things his way, and he wanted to be in complete control of what he did. And I'm okay, and that's okay, It was tough at the time, but I got to a point in time in my life where I wanted to increase my potential in life. I mean, wasn't making a lot of money at the time. I wasn't really able to do any. It's funny. I remember my first time with my wife when we were a boyfriend and girlfriend. Went and she had a really great job when we met, and I went to go get a new car, and I was kind of embarrassed because I didn't want her to know how much money I made. She'll never forget it, but I never wanted her to know, because it was embarrassing. And so, when you're making a quarter, when you're making below minimum wage, it's pretty embarrassing. And so yeah. So anyway, so yeah, it was tough for me. And then the fact that he was just like, kind of going behind my back and things, and it caused a big, big problem. So for me, at the time, it kind of gave me some motivation, right at the time, to succeed, because he was just very, very adamant on how I would not succeed in what I was doing.
Isn't it interesting how our mindset is so that when someone tells us we can't do something, or someone says we're going to fail, it just kind of drives us, to succeed, drives us to work harder. Just if anything else, just to prove ourselves. What's your relationship with him now? Has it improved? Has it? It has not.
No, it's absolutely no contact, which I
Mm,
think is good. I we so funny. We went to a karate tournament about 3 months after this, and he was there, and he came to me. And this was really a really good story, because we were, if you've been to a karate tournament before, it's in a gym and everybody's in the stands,
right.
and the people, of course, that were with me then, and we'd get, have earned some new students since then, and we were like in the middle of the arena, and you could see him walk up to me. He puts his finger in my chest, and he tells me, he goes, "You'll be out of business in 6 months."
Mm.
And so everybody in the stands was kind of like, someone, they were like holding their breath, like wondering, what am I going to do with this guy putting his finger, like, what am I going to do, a Master Ken move or something? But But I was like, yeah, of course, that's just not my style. If you know who I am, I mean, I'm very calm and collected. So I was just like, okay, we'll see how things go. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, I haven't really had any contact with him, which I think is a good thing. I kind of, you know, we talk about deflecting negative energy. Well, there was a lot of negative energy there, and I am a very positive person, and so I just don't like being around people that are negative and negative energy. So I said, okay, I'm gonna, cut ties, and that's okay with me.
Well, and here you are 5 years later. The 6 months has long passed.
Long
Uh,
pass.
so talk about, you had 60 students,
Yep.
coming over from that school, and you built it up. How are things going now? Talk a little bit about your current situation, where you're at with your school.
Yeah. So we started out in a 2,000 square foot facility, and now we have that same 2,000 square feet, but we also have the 4,000 square feet that's next door.
Hmm.
So we have two mats running. A beautiful facility. My wife and she had this vision of making it, tile floors, pretty bathrooms, all that kind of good stuff. So,
Hmm.
but we have two mats running, 427 students as of
Good
today.
for you. Good for you.
So, yeah, and it's and I tell you, there's a lot of people to thank for that. I mean, that's over the last 5 years. I mean, it definitely was not a single man person operation. So, but the dojo is doing great. We're booming, and we've grown a lot in the last 5 years for sure.
Good for you. Well, congratulations. That's awesome to hear. I mean, that long story to get to where you are now. But
Yeah,
you've mentioned your wife a little bit, and that she's been a big part of your school. So, kind of tell us about your wife and how you met, and what her role is in the school.
yeah. We met in 2006, 15, 2015.
You better get this right. It's
I
on
better get it
video.
right. Yeah, yeah. No, 2015. We met at a good friend's. A good friend called me up. I've been friends with her since high school. Her and her husband called me up. They're like, "Hey, come over for a barbecue." And it was a Sunday, and I just had a beat up pair of shorts and a shirt on. I said, okay, I'll go and hang out and get some free food. So went over there and hung out, and she was there. My wife was there at the time, and I just kind of walked in, and she was new and said hi. And later on that evening, they said we're gonna play some darts, and so I looked for the hottest blonde in the place and said, okay, come on, you're gonna be my dart partner. And ever since then, it's been great. So she is like the perfect balance for me because I am very very out there people person. I guess we call it a type A personality. I'm just
Mm,
constantly very very social, and she's more chill. I have a gray area sometimes. She does not, so she has a black and white uh, way of looking at things. So yeah, she is now. She was in HR, and she in corporate America, and
hmm.
she a couple of years ago, I think 3 years ago now, left her job in corporate America, and she is now our program director and general manager of our location. So
Amazing.
yeah,
Very cool.
she does a good job. She keeps us grounded. She handles all the I say all the off the mat, you know, items that need to be done, and then I get to manage the things that are on the mat.
Gotcha. Very cool. Well, it's interesting because my wife and I similar that she had she went on to college, got a bachelor's degree, worked in HR for a company, and when our daughter was born, we were just getting involved with Maya at that time, and the studio started kind of booming, and we said, well, maybe we could just make this work, that like you come and help at the school. And I know for myself, just having my wife's support on the back end, because she does so much that people don't even see. And I always say that she's kind of the heart and soul of our school. I'm the mouthpiece, but she's the heart and the soul of it. And our team, is awesome because they get out there and do their thing on the mat. But it's always great to have your wife there to support you in this business, because it's a tough one.
Yeah,
Martial arts industry. People see all the great stuff, but the struggle. I mean, especially the last year, right? For I don't know what it was like for you guys, but we were teaching outside for a long time. We were teaching on Zoom. We were doing everything. We actually moved our school in the middle of the whole deal, so it was wild. I was in this facility for almost a year before we even got to teach on this mat. So, what was that like for you going through, all the COVID restrictions and stuff? Because you're in California as well. So, what was that like for you guys?
Well, first things first, right? I got to give a lot of credit to our team for, our team has been resilient through this whole entire process, right? Our instructors, and we've grown our team wise since then, but I'll tell you, our team has just been top notch. When the pandemic hit and they're like, all right, we got a shelter in place. What are we going to do? I said, all right, we're going to start teaching online. And we immediately just started in, ground running. We did Facebook Live and YouTube Live simultaneously, pretending like we could see the student. That was
Mm-hmm.
our first before we did the Zoom thing. And I tell you, like, I was just like, hey guys, because they were worried. They're like, what are we gonna do?
Right.
What's going on? I'm like, guys, don't worry. We're gonna go out there and we're gonna crush it. And they were just like, let's do it. And so all of our instructors were just, I mean, resilient, ready to go. They had zero issues. So we did the Zoom until we were able to open. We had that first reopening process,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then remember when I told you about our small little town of Clovis?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Clovis was the right spot, right? That's why I love the city. Um, we're a little bit different here. So after we opened, we stayed open, and so that is what really helped us out. So we stayed open. So we turned our locker room into a Zoom studio. So we have our locker room, which was a Zoom studio, and then we had our on the mat. So we had on the mat classes running
Mm-hmm.
and Zoom classes going. And then it got to a point where it's like, oh man, we got more people that want to come back, but why don't you guys try the park? I said, okay, so we're gonna do park classes in person, Zoom, kind of mixing it around. Then of course here in our area, I think this was probably around November, December of last year. It started getting dark earlier, started getting
Right.
cold. We're like, okay, we're going all back to the dojo. And then we finally made a decision to a point where we're like, listen, we're gonna cut down, we're gonna cancel our Zoom program. So we canceled Zoom, I'd say probably back in March of this year,
Okay.
and completely got rid of Zoom. And we weren't getting any new students. We kept getting called. Hey man, are you guys in person? Yes. All right, cool. We're coming in. Hey, are you
Right.
guys in person? Yes, we're coming in. So yeah, during that whole process is when we expanded, because we moved from the 2,000 to the 4,000, and then we took back over the 2,000 because of COVID, because of social distance issues. Because they were like, we had too many people coming in, and we didn't have enough dots on the mat. So I said, well, let's we cut a couple holes in the wall, threw on some paint. It was already painted in the paint scheme. We just
Right.
refurbished everything, matted it, and we're good to go. So through the pandemic, I got to say, the entire team just stuck together. We worked hard. And we just kept enrolling students and kept enrolling students, and that was the thing. Like back to your question earlier about the whole sell out concept. Like the more people we can serve, the better. And we've got systems in place now that we can serve a good chunk of people and really positively influence their life. And that's why we're here. That's the goal. The goal is to serve, to help, to really build up our community and build up the future generations of people that are going to be here.
Yeah, I definitely want to get to that and talk about that because I love that word, serve and service. It's something that we pride ourselves here in our school, and I know that you do as well. But I wanted to also, you talked about the attitude of your team, and one of my favorite lines in the movie, Remember the Titans, is that attitude reflects leadership. And so you got to have some good things going on yourself to be able to get your team to fall in line because it's very easy, when a challenge or a struggle like COVID or anything else pops up, and it would be very easy to say, well, we'll just kind of wait it out, or we'll just let's just kind of do the minimum. Like, what can we do to get by? Um, but you, on the other hand, said, well, I don't care if we teach in the park or we teach inside or we teach on Zoom, we're doing Facebook Live, we're doing YouTube Live. We're just going to do whatever it takes to continue to serve our members and serve our clients, our students. And in my opinion, our students in our school is like our family. We have to do everything we can, and that's where we get that support back. And I just want to throw this up here real quick because Ed did jump on, and he says, I just want to say that I appreciate both of you and what you both provide for the community and for all of your students. So thanks, Ed. I miss
Thanks, Ed.
you. I need a good chiropractor, Ed. I still haven't found one, just so you know. He used to keep me in line. And what I loved about Ed, by the way, was he wasn't the guy that told me, well, you shouldn't do that, you should just take it easy. He would say, well, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to do this, and he would give me all my stretches and stuff. So
Love
Ed's
it.
a good dude.
Love it.
So you
Good
you
guy.
talked about serving, service, community. Talk about some of the things that you do with your school and in your community to support, not just within your own school, but outside of your four doors.
Sure. Yeah. First and foremost, I think we have a really tremendous, great relationship with our Clovis Unified School District, and so for years I've been working on cultivating that relationship. We have tons of parents, of teachers, so teachers that actually bring their kids to us. So we've got
Mm-hmm.
teachers in the district, we've got admin, and they're just phenomenal people. And so we whatever they need, we're there for them. So
Mm-hmm.
we do a school supply drive every year. This year we did one. We were able to serve 14 elementary schools.
Awesome.
So yeah, it was great. So we do that every year for them. We have a great bully prevention assembly that we offer to the schools to help them out in that way. We attend their school carnivals and provide our demonstration team provides entertainment for their carnival, and we have of course, we have a booth out there. If anybody wants to, of course, join our program and reap all those rewards. And so with school districts, we're there for them, whatever they need. If they need me for something, like I had a teacher a couple years ago call me up and, hey, can you come and do an assembly at our school because they're about to go into testing and we need you to go get them pumped up. I'm like, yeah, no problem. I'll get them pumped up.
Let's
Easy.
go.
That's my deal. That's my jam. So yeah, did that. And then, so for schools, we're in there. As far as other things in the community, I sit on the board of our local Clovis Rotary Club. So anything the Rotary Club does, I'm involved with them, very directly. And I'm doing things like, for example, we give out dictionaries to third graders, and I believe it's 16 schools. So all the third graders get a dictionary from the Clovis Rotary Club. So some of our junior black belt prep students had some random acts of kindness they had to do, and so they chose to
Mm-hmm.
come in and help out. So involved in the dojo with a Rotary Club is something I'm really trying to do. But motivational speaking is kind of my deal right now. So people, I think, need positivity in their life. There's just so much negativity. You listen to the news,
Mm-hmm.
you listen to Facebook, you listen to your cousin, you listen to your aunt and uncle, maybe some old school family members you might have. And, I believe either you can hurt people or you can help people, right? Because two of those things there are the things that really affect people's lives. I mean, we've all been hurt at one point in time in our life where we can remember it. It sticks with us, whether it be physically, emotionally, and we can remember that person that really helped us. You can always go back to that third grade teacher or that martial arts instructor or that mentor that helped you. So I figured that helping people is the best way. And sometimes people just need that positivity. And so my goal is to provide that for them. And so outside this, of course, inside the school, it's a team effort. It's me, my team, giving that to our students and our parents. But at the same time, radiating that throughout the community when we step out the door. I always tell them, like, you wear the patch here, but you're still wearing it when you go out there. And that's important.
Oh, I love that. I had to write that down. You could either hurt people or you could help people. I think that's a pretty powerful statement for people to remember. And I love what you're doing. And as a fellow Rotarian, I think that's amazing to be involved in the Rotary Club. I've really enjoyed being a part of that club and all that we do. And not only in our area but all over, all over the country, all over the world, right?
Yeah.
Community service is super super important. I can remember, a lot of times when consulting clients and school owners, one of the biggest questions I always got was, how do you get involved in the schools? How do you get in the schools? And I think the mindset was wrong from a lot of the people asking questions, because their question was, how do I get my flyers handed out at the school? How do I get my school promoted? How do I get me, versus what can I give?
Right.
How can I help? How can I serve? And that would be my answer to anybody that ever asks, and I'm sure you can agree, is that the more you give, number one, it feels great to give. It's just a much more powerful approach than, hey, can you promote me? Hey, can you tell everybody about me? um, just such a different mindset. I mean, do you find that that is what has helped you, not only earn that reputation, but build upon that relationship with your schools, is just the ability to give back?
Yeah, well, the only flyer I give to schools is a flyer that says it's a pamphlet
Hmm.
that talks about what we can do for them.
Right.
That's it. I saw this really cool principal when I was dropping off some school supplies. My wife and I dropped them off. He's like, "Well, do you have any flyers we can hand out?" I said, "Actually, I don't." I said, if you'd like to tell people about us, great. But we're here for you, man. Whatever you need, we're here to
Right.
help you out." And he was kind of like, "Wow, okay, cool. Well, if I can help you out in any way, let me know." I said, "Awesome." We like to help the schools because at, we're in a position, because this is what we do. We teach life skills to kids, and we teach kids how to defend themselves. So we teach kids how to be better in the classroom, how to stay out of the principal's office, and you know what I mean. And so we can help these teachers, and we can do it and we do it, out of the kindness of our heart. We're the way I look at it, we're gonna get students, and we
Right.
have systems in place for that. The relationship with the school is not one of those systems. We're not trying to get new members by going to the school. We'll do a Facebook ad or a Google AdWords, or you know what I mean, or something in that down that
Hmm.
direction.
Right.
We're not going to the school to try to get new students. We're just trying to help out.
Yeah, for sure. Again, totally different mindset, as far as that approach. We got a couple minutes left, and I just wanted to ask you, who are some of your mentors? Who are some of the people that you look to for advice, or for inspiration, and why?
Number one on the list, Hanshi Dave Kovar. Uh, I joined with the Kovar Systems coaching organization a couple years back, and that was probably one of the best decisions I ever made, ever, for our business. But on top of that, Mr. Kovar is just the epitome of what a martial artist should be. He lives it. He walks the talk, talks the talk. He's a martial artist first, and then he deals with the business stuff second. And that's who I want to be. That's who I strive to be. Is I need to always have my base. I mean, I still train 6 days a week, and I want to be a better martial artist, so I can set that tone for my students. And he kind of does that for me. So definitely Dave Kovar. Um, Another gentleman by the name of Dave Chamberlain. He's definitely he's kind of like my business guru. He's a CEO of Kovars, and he's that very analytical, engineer type brain that I need advice from. And so
Hmm.
he definitely helps keep me grounded as far as thinking about business. Um, and then definitely Chip Townsend.
Nice.
He was one of the guys I met first. In that year 2011, I remember shaking his hand. And his hand was like ginormous. I'm like, oh man, it's Chip Townsend.
Yeah.
But he definitely has helped me. The other day we chatted for a good 30 minutes, and talking about growth and growth mindset, and being grounded, and doing things the right way with integrity, and that's kind of his you know uh foundation. And so, and
Hmm.
then again too, earlier you talked about people, about hard work, and how some people might want to take the easy road, or just kind of wait for things to mull over. those guys and myself, they help me keep pushing on and keeping that fire burning. And yeah, those guys have definitely been huge in my growth.
Very nice, very nice. Well, great, all great people.
Yeah,
I was fortunate enough to have a conversation with Chip Townsend and with Dave Kovar on this show, and other times as well. Dave Kovar, we've used his leadership methods for as long as I can remember, since the very first Super Show. That I think it was the very first thing that I ever purchased from Maya, was that career training guide that we still use to this day for our leadership program.
right.
Everybody that has ever become an instructor has gone through that. And yeah, and you talk about grounded. I love that. It's one of the things I love most about him. And I appreciate him being a huge contributor to our Master Motivation group, because he posts
Yeah.
once a week with some motivational advice. So love it. What are you reading right now?
I am reading a book called Never Split the Difference. It's a
Okay.
negotiation book.
All
And
right.
I'm rereading, I feel like I'm constantly rereading Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. It's
Okay.
just, I feel like that's the one that I'm constant. Right. It's funny. Right now, that's part of our adult huddle discussions in our karate classes, is those habits. So I'm constantly they're just great for me. It's kind of a good foundation for me to be effective in the things I do. I really go back to those. So those are my
Mm-hmm.
two reads right now.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, excellent. Well, hey, thank you for taking an hour out of your day on a Monday of all days, being one of the, it's one of the best days of the week for me, because it's when I love to get everything going and going right away. But it's also, as I know, the busiest day for most people like yourself. So I
Right.
do appreciate your time and appreciate you sharing your story with us. Can you do me a favor and just give me, like, what I like to call it, the master minute, and just give them one of your quick motivational talks before we finish today?
Quick motivational talk. All right. So yeah, it definitely is Monday, but I think we touched on a lot of things today, but I think one of the most important things is work hard at whatever it is you do. Right. Stay hungry for whatever it is you do. And the second one is stay humble. Right. Stay humble. Don't think that you know too much than the guy next to you. Really stay grounded and humble. Stay hungry and treat the people around you with the utmost respect and dignity. That right there, I think, is by far one of the things that I think that we should just be doing on a daily basis. If you meet from the guy pushing the shopping cart down the street to the billionaire that you're going to talk to tomorrow, right? To your doctor, to a lawyer, to the Starbucks barista,
Hmm.
whatever it may be. I think just I feel that if we could just treat people great, work really hard at what we do, and stay humble, I think that this world's going to be a better place, and I think we'll be a big part of that.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do. I almost thought that you were going to give a quote from one of my favorite guys in the world, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. He says, "Be humble, be hungry, be the hardest worker in the room." Right?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite quotes by him. Love it. Hey,
Yes,
thank you
sir.
so much. Thank you so much
Thank
for all your
you.
time, and for everybody here watching. Once again, please go ahead and like and share this video. It'll be up on our YouTube channel. You can find it at Master Motivation, along with all the past guests. We've had some amazing guests on the show, so I'm super pumped for you guys to check those out. And next week, my next guest will be Mr. Brandon Beliso. I got a great story to tell about him, how we met at the Super Show, actually, or on the way to the Super Show. So looking forward to having him next week. And Mr. Mike Guido, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is great, and I'll be definitely tuning in next week to see Professor Beliso for sure.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. Well, listen, have a great week. We'll see you next Monday, and we're going to close it out with our video. So take care, sir.
Bye, sir.